Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode, we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 28.
Chapter 28!
Chapter 28, Decision. Adolin and Dalinar oversee their war camp and Taleb's bridge experiments. Adolin is worried about his father, whom nobody seems to realize appears frail. Dalinar and Taleb are unsatisfied with their first bridge design, but determined to continue experimenting. Dalinar comments to Adolin, "Why do you suppose there are no shard plate-like suits for workmen?" "I don't know. Perhaps because war was the most important thing around." "Perhaps. And perhaps that's a final condemnation of them and their ideals." Adolin doesn't understand what Dalinar's comments are about. The two head toward the 5th Battalion. As they walk, they discuss Dalinar's decision to let soldiers bring their families to the Shattered Plains, which are now a de facto province of Alethkar. Dalinar pontificates on the value of gem hearts should they oversaturate the market. At the 5th Battalion, Bright Lord Havram has gathered the people Sadeas had interviewed previously. Dalinar sends Adolin to review the troops. Once that's done, he compliments Adolin on having done the task well. They check on the soldiers Havram gathered. Dalinar and Adolin determine that they had likely been overzealous in their defense of Dalinar, possibly to his detriment. Adolin wants to know why Dalinar keeps making him take the lead on the day's interactions. Dalinar ominously states that he's just trying to make a difficult decision. A messenger from High Prince Thanadal arrives. Thanadal preemptively declines Dalinar's presumed offer of a joint plateau assault. That leaves only Sadeas to approach on the matter. Dalinar tells Adolin to finish the inspections and heads elsewhere. Dalinar has been contemplating retirement. He thinks on a passage about control from the Way of Kings. He sends for his warhammer. He then makes his way to a group of workers who are digging a latrine. He orders them to relax. Then he uses his shard plate enhanced strength, his warhammer, and his shard blade to start digging the latrine himself. He wonders why there weren't any shards for ordinary men. Working helps him think. He's losing the thrill. Killing sickens him. He can't lead like this. It feels good to work in the camp as he is, building the latrine. By doing so, he's living out the ideals of the very book that infected him. He thinks again about the Way of Kings. He wonders if men are like stone. Stone cannot change without pounding. Maybe that's why Dalinar feels so conflicted, because he's changing. People gather to watch the spectacle of a Bright Lord digging a latrine. He thinks about the apparent weakness of his recent rulership and his current troubles. This contrasts with his characterization of his past self as a tyrant and a warmonger. Right on the cusp of making his decision, Navani interrupts his train of thoughts. Dalinar had missed an appointment with her. Navani contemplates that the masculine arts destroy and the feminine arts create. Dalinar apologizes for missing the appointment. Navani informs Dalinar that one of his span reeds is flashing. Yasna wants to communicate with Dalinar. Dalinar tosses away the warhammer, noting the shaft had been bent. Dalinar and Navani hurry to the span reed. As they walk, Navani admits to taking advantage of Dalinar, at least a little bit, but notes that this last year Dalinar has begun acting like the man people claim him to be. Navani lets Dalinar know she picked Gavilar because Dalinar had frightened her. His intensity frightened her, and Gavilar too. Dalinar does not want to dishonor his brother's memory. They arrive at the span reed. Dalinar is shocked to find that Adolin had finished the inspections hours ago. Adolin has a new love interest, one who'd only been in the camp one day and needed work as a clerk with Dalinar's scribes. Dalinar communicates via span reed, a form of dual writing in two places with Yasna. Yasna, in Carbronth, has found hints of what she seeks. She's growing increasingly concerned. Dalinar wants to know if she will return to the war camp. She cannot say for certain, but a time may come when she cannot stay away. She asks Dalinar to recount the exact details of his first encounter between him, Gavilar, and the Parshendi. Dalinar wonders if she's looking for answers to Gavilar's death. The two of them had been exploring unmapped territory south of the Shattered Plains. They didn't seem to have shard blades until after Gavilar's death, and they had learned the Alethi language very quickly. Yasna asks what their very first question was, which was to see their maps. She asks if they asked about Voidbringers, though Dalinar cannot recall. Shallan draws an impressive picture for Dalinar via Spanreed. Yasna compliments Shallan's ability. Adolin notes the picture looks similar to a chasm fiend. Yasna claims the picture is intended to be a Voidbringer. Dalinar and Yasna contemplate the mystery therein. Yasna has to leave, but Dalinar nigh on begs her to return to the war camp. She promises to come, but she cannot say when. Dalinar looks over the picture, then realizes he has indeed made his decision to retire. Navani confronts Dalinar about why he treats Yasna so fondly. It is Yasna's unwillingness to compromise that he sees as a sign of honor. Dalinar tells Navani he intends to retire. Navani is shocked, telling him he's making a terrible mistake. For I have never been dedicated to a more important purpose, and the very pillars of the sky will shake with the results of our war here. I ask again, support me. Do not stand aside and let disaster consume more lives. I've never begged you for something before, old friend. I do so now. Well, that was certainly a desperate plea.
Yeah, the tone shifted from all the sarcasm and blah 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 to okay, no, really, I'm begging you.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the same person?
I think so.
Same letter? It has to be. Yeah.
I feel fairly strongly that it is.
Mm,
And later on in the chapter, the terminology Dalinar uses is that of shard. Why isn't there any shard for the common man? Which
mhm,
has me rethinking my Cosmere theories.
mhm.
Just gonna put that one out there.
Okay.
But
You mean that the theories that I hardly comprehend. Okay, cool.
exactly.
Mhm,
But it does sound like there is, it's a weird phrase, but glorious purpose in what this writer is seeking to accomplish. Does that make
mhm.
sense?
Yeah, something grand, something epic, something
Yeah.
worthy. It's not just a plan.
Yeah, this is not a slice of life anime. This is
Yeah.
yeah.
The pillars of the earth, it's like, the pillars of the universe, like, the stakes are pretty high in this,
Ex-
and it's brought this cocky guy to a state of begging, so let's understand the stakes here. That's as much as I can glean from this. Again, just the usual epigraph thing of, "Okay, thanks, Sanderson. I have impressions, but that's all I have."
it has me so intrigued. It really does.
Mhm,
And I will say, as it connects to this chapter, Dalinar basically begs Yasna later on, and we'll get to that
mhm,
discussion in a bit, but he basically begs her to come back. So there's a little
mhm.
bit of, I think, intentional overlap or parallel
Yeah,
mirroring there.
yeah, epigraph things, yeah.
Before we get into the rest of the chapter, though, there is something outside of all of this that I learned this week, but connects directly to this. I I've been playing a bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
Okay.
There's a part fairly early on in the game where one of the characters educates you. I say that in bunny ears. Informs you about something known as the three estates of man.
Mhm,
And essentially, he explains the three estates of man as this philosophy. And I ended up looking this up later because I thought it was really interesting. It was this philosophy of the structure of people, the caste system, in which it divides people up into the nobility
mm.
who fight, the commoners who work, and the clergy who pray. Where does that sound familiar, Kitty?
Okay, we've got the light.
Farmers?
Yeah, farmers are the workers. We got the lighters, which is that they do the fighting. We got the radiants, basically. Well, whatever, the people with the shard plates. This is what I'm thinking. Then the people that work, we've actually got. See, okay, I'm too focused on the war, but yeah, then we got the farmers. and
We
the peasants and whatever, the common folk, and then we've got the Ardents.
Exactly. We've got some very specific structure
Mhm,
from Kaladin and the
mhm.
young Cal chapters
Yes.
regarding the division between
Mhm,
the soldiers who fight, the farmers who farm, and the
mhm.
ardents who pray. And I think that is just magnificent. It learning about the three estates of man just heightens this element of the book for me. I can
That
only assume this was intentional on Brandon's part, on Mr. Sanderson's part. But to get into the chapter, we
yeah.
open up with Adolin feeling as if there were essentially realizing his dad's old, and it breaks my heart.
Mhm.
It really does.
You have that moment where you've kind of there's something has changed because you see the person all the time, but then something changes. You don't know exactly what, but somehow all of a sudden they seem frail. And but there's also a lot of his guilt in that. His guilt, because he's like he does say the world had become more heavy, or there were more burdens, and it was his fault. Like he does. That's another reason he sees the pressure he's put on his father by basically through their argument that they had, where he's
Mhm.
basically saying you're going mad and you're going to cost us. You're going to cost our whole family. Like get your stuff together. Like
Yeah.
that has put weight on him, and that weight has now taken its toll physically, he thinks, on him. But I mean, this is I thought this was straight after the lack of
A fight.
thrill. Yeah, but it seems like it was a day or two later anyway.
Yeah, but we learn that that issue has been exacerbated in the
Mhm,
time between then and now.
mhm. Yeah, it's still a I mean, and it comes up there. He even asks Adolin about the thrill,
Yeah.
which is just like, "Whoa, what the hell is that?" So that's more of a sign that it's like when somebody is close to dying, they start talking about those kinds of things with a little less abandon because it's like they're making this deadly decision. So that would be worrying from Adolin's point of view. It's like, what are you're talking like like it's the end. So that from Adolin's point of view, it's like he's gonna die.
And
Yeah.
so building on that, I knew intuitively,
Mhm,
immediately, that Dalinar was considering essentially
mhm,
retirement this
mhm.
chapter, just
Yeah.
from the structure of Adolin keeps being pushed to the front, and
Mhm,
Dalinar keeps talking about him doing well with the soldiers and what have you. And there's a little part of me that's like, come on, Adolin, how can you not realize what it is that
mhm.
he's thinking about? But at the same time, I get why he wouldn't.
Yeah. It's very emotional. He's thinking about his father being weak and all of that, so he's not thinking about the guilt, I would say, of his part in all of it. He's not thinking about what is my father thinking. He's just
Mhm.
stuck in the way this makes him feel. His father's making him feel.
Yeah. He's a concerned son, and I
Mm.
really feel for that.
Mhm.
What do you think of Kaminar? That's a bad joke.
Yeah, I didn't get it,
Dalinar
so Oh!
Dalinar the communist, wondering why the workers don't have any shard plate or shard tools. Um, but it's
It's a valid
a fair
question.
it's a totally valid question, and like the immediate response or place that my mind goes to that is, well, maybe it's just a precious resource.
Mhm.
But obviously, we don't know that for certain beyond any doubt. So, yeah, I think it's a fair and valid question.
Yeah, it seems like maybe it would be not numerous enough to be used in that way, but at the same time, it has not been used that way. It must be something cultural. I thought as well. It's something cultural that makes them that's not what shard is for. Why is it so revolutionary that Dalinar now, this madman, because you know he's going mad, why is it so revolutionary that he's the first one to use shard plates for manual labor? Like it makes sense. Why have they
Yeah,
not done this before? It's because it's cultural.
yeah. I mean, Adolin's response is perhaps war was just the most important thing around, and
Mhm.
that is in line with the Alethi way of thinking.
Yeah, they're just warriors and, they're protectors, and that's what they're there for. It's the largest threat, actually. So use
Yeah.
your resources towards the largest threat.
My mind goes to the way that innovation works and how
Mhm.
it's connected to the advancement of weaponry, but
Yeah.
I'm not quite educated enough on the topic to pontificate. Do you know much
No.
about that, Kitty?
No, if you think you're not educated, "What is weapon?" No.
Well, then hopefully it will just be sufficient to say that that topic entered into my mind
Yeah.
at this question.
Insert thematic musings.
Yeah, and just the sort of passive knowledge that I've accrued on the topic
Mhm.
that I just
Mhm.
can't articulate for the moment.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit about Oncommy Dalinar? I say as a
Yes.
joke, um, the the two topics of Dalinar letting dark-eyed soldiers invite their families here,
Mhm.
the Shattered Plains becoming an Alethi province, and the oversaturation of the gem hearts.
Ooh. Yeah.
Because there's a lot there.
Mhm.
It is of course good guy Dalinar letting the Alethi soldiers do this.
Mhm.
Certainly. It's really interesting for me to think, yeah, people of course are gonna stay. Not everyone's gonna go back.
Yeah.
And the oversaturation of the gem hearts presumably leads to inflation, leads to a dramatic restructuring of the economic system in
Mm.
in the empire. Yeah?
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, a small part of me, because as we see, there's been a lot of lost knowledge regarding magic in this world and the way things are and history and so on. And of course my mind goes to Game of Thrones and how essentially with the dragons dying, magic started to die out from the world to the
Mhm.
point where that's mostly forgotten. But then it starts to come back with Daenerys.
Mhm.
And I wonder if there's a similar thing going on here with the Everstorm coming, more and more, at the
Old
very least,
things.
opportunities for old magics to
Mhm.
resurface, yeah?
Yeah, something like that. Things will come again, yeah.
Yeah,
They may not know how to use them, Kaladin, whatever, but yeah, there might be a resurgence in that sort of magic. I'm with you on that.
cool. The overzealous horse grooms, uh,
That was endearing, but un
unfortunate but endearing
unfortunate.
is an excellent
Yes.
way to put it.
Mhm. I told him. I told him. There was nothing. It's like, "Oh gosh." It's like that so they are so loyal that they're willing to hide the body with you, but it's like, "There's no body. Relax." I didn't hide any body. That was, it was endearing, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah, so they tried to help, but it didn't really work.
yeah, and again, like, my intuition is that Sadeas is on Dalinar's side, so I'm not overly worried about
Mhm.
this. Famous last words, I'm sure,
Mhm.
but I do have faith that Sadeas will make good decisions.
But there will be good decisions according to Sadeas. It won't be so
That's
if Sadeas
true,
if Sadeas believes Dalinar is not good for the kingdom, he's going to be against him.
but I don't think Sadeas will lie and say, "Yep, he tried to assassinate Elhokar."
Yeah,
He
he'll use
might he
Mhm,
might go so far as to say your mental problems have
mhm.
impeded your ability to protect him, so you have to step down now, or something like that. But I
Politicky
don't think,
thing.
yeah, but I do not think he will place attempt, the blame for the attempt on him.
I hope not. That's all I'll say is I
Mm,
hope not.
Me too.
Mm.
But on the topic of Sadeas, Dalinar gets rejected by the second to last High Prince.
Mhm.
Sadeas is the only one left to do a joint plateau assault with. if Sadeas were to agree. And again, building on my faith in Sadeas, I'm inclined to believe that he would be open to the possibility if the argument were made well. But one does have to wonder if the two of them worked together with Sadeas investigating Dalinar in the way he has been, would it not look like Dalinar were trying to bribe Sadeas with regard to the
Mm,
investigation?
true. Yeah. It's the optics don't work out. Mhm.
Yeah,
But I did take that as a hint that it's like, that is still a possibility. Think about it. Is that gonna happen? When I read that, I was like, "Okay, Sadeas is the only one left, and we haven't really tried to crack that egg. So, let's
yeah.
maybe that's gonna happen." But yeah.
And not that it even may matter anymore if he really is going to
Mhm.
retire. Do you okay, do you want him to? Like, do you think he will? And do you think that will allow him special maneuverability? What's your thought on the topic of him retiring?
I feel like, so I'm like, yeah, it would make him, give him certain maneuverability, that true, but he wouldn't have his shard plates anymore. He would have to go back to Alethi. I don't know, Electar. So I don't know what good he would do. Maybe he would be able to help Jasna. Maybe, I don't know. So I understand there's some sort of benefit. Maybe, okay, maybe. But what I feel by the end of this chapter is that he's not going to have the chance to retire. So yes, he's made the
Interesting.
decision, but I feel like something's gonna make it that he doesn't get, because it's like it's laid out that he's gonna have it by the end of the week. He's gonna announce it and whatever. To me, it feels like there is this and this there's this bait, Sanderson bait that I'm like, oh no, everything's gonna go wrong. He's not gonna be able to retire.
Just when I think I'm out,
Yeah.
they pull me back in.
Exactly.
So Dalinar working on the latrine was his version, I think, of the Shalon painting and
Mhm.
Kaladin kata-ing,
Mhm.
his moment,
Mhm.
if that makes sense. And I really enjoyed that segment of the chapter.
Yeah, the value of work as well, just feeling, I love the way he spoke about being able to see the effects that you have so immediately. It is something that's very appealing about manual labor, is that you can see it's done there. Thinking work is takes a lot longer.
Men like to build things. And it's interesting because Navani comments on how the masculine arts are all destructive
Mhm,
and the feminine arts are creative,
mhm.
but men really do like to build things. We are engineers
Yeah,
and
make things.
architects and so on.
Yeah.
And a little bit of that plays out with Dalinar. There's a lot of the topic of masculinity in this chapter, I think,
Mhm.
in subtle ways and not so subtle ways.
Yeah.
It did occur to me. Okay, so I think him building the latrine is going to do him a tremendous boon. Not that he necessarily needs it in regard to his reputation around the camp.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just my dark mind, but I did imagine people saying something to the effect of, oh, he thinks we can't build latrines, so he has to do it himself. He's taken our jobs. Um,
Sorry, yeah.
but I don't think that's what's actually going to play out.
Yeah, when you've got soldiers and things like that going and being so overzealous that they actually make you seem guilty, like the grooms being that way, it's kind of difficult to then swing the other way and say, "Oh, well, these people are looking at Dalinar with scorn." It's they would interpret his actions with a lot of charity,
Yeah. Now, what the other high princes will think when they hear he
obviously.
did this will
Mhm.
probably not do him too many favors, but
Yeah,
I
he'll be considered
um
loopy.
yeah. But among his own men, I think this is a good thing for him.
Mhm.
So we brought up Navani. What did you think of her in this chapter?
My opinion remains of like my impression of her before. Just I didn't like how manipulative she is and how predatory she is over Dalinar. But I don't know. I think she's suitably put in place when he says, "I will not dishonor the memory of my brother." It's like, okay,
Hmm.
stop. As much as she hasn't said anything overtly, she is she is flirting with him essentially, and
Yeah.
he's like he kind of just says, "Listen, this is not going to work. This is not a good thing. What you're trying to do is not a good thing." And her carrying on about why she didn't choose him and all of this stuff. It's like, okay, that's enough. And yeah. Mm.
So she says that she didn't choose him because he frightened her. His
Mhm.
intensity
Mm.
frightened her. And I know Jordan Peterson can be a bit of a divisive figure, but he has talked about men being dangerous and being able to direct that danger, that aggression into positive directions. Am I you know more about what Peterson
No,
has
I
said than
think
I
it's
do, I think.
basically the
Did
same.
I
Yeah,
characterize that
it's
close to right?
the masculine power can be used for good and can be used for bad. And yeah, it's a very it's a threatening thing, but can also be a very attractive thing.
Gotcha. And it is good that Dalinar is learning to control himself and direct, I think, this intensity into positive directions. Yeah?
Yeah, that's a good journey for a man. It is the journey for a man. It's like you've got this chaotic power about you because you're a man, but channeling it is what makes you. We've had great lines in the book about that actually, about controlling your emotions and things like that.
Hmm.
Stoicism, essentially. So that is seems like the path of man is, or path of any human, is taking whatever chaos they are born with and trying to temper it with order.
Yeah. So then we meet Adolin's latest flame. That's not quite true. We learn that Adolin finished doing his inspections hours ago, so Dalinar doesn't realize
Mhm.
how long he had been working, and that was noteworthy to me. But then we meet Adolin's newest flame, and I don't trust her. She's been in camp one day and maneuvers her way into working very
Mhm.
closely under Dalinar, like in that vicinity.
Yeah,
Total spy,
not
right?
trustworthy, but actually, just going back to the Adolin flame thing, he in the first few pages of the chapter, he does refer to some other girl as well. So he's got like two going on, and then his dad does ask him after he introduces this one. He's like, "What happened to the other girl?" And they kind of have this exchange of, you're gonna have to choose one at some point. You're gonna have to court one woman. That's usually how it works. I'm
Mm.
starting to get annoyed with Adolin's mm, romances. And I also find him very cocky because it's like, it's all about who he chooses.
Hmm.
It's all about, oh, will she be the one for me? And he goes and he like plays around with this one and that one. And it just, yeah, I'm like, grow up, please. But I guess he is still very young. So it's just, I'm not interested in it. I'm not
Yeah.
finding it endearing, actually. I guess that's because I'm an old hag.
He is young.
Mm.
He's very much the sort of jock archetype,
Mhm.
I guess you could say. And
Casanova even.
yeah, and I think there might be an argument to be made that he might not be the brightest cookie in the tool shed. I mean,
Well, yeah.
neither is Elokar, but just
Well,
hints
compared to
of
his
it.
dad,
Yeah.
yeah. And maybe his brother's actually smarter than him. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean,
He's a he's not dumb, but
no.
he comparative.
Yeah, he's just the normie in a group of very intelligent people.
Yeah, and maybe he's a bit distracted. He is
True.
he's not he's not mature enough to use his intelligence. So it's like yeah, that frustrates me. I like there's only so long you can use youth as an excuse.
Yeah,
So
but you've hit the nail on the head. Him simply maturing will do him a world of good.
mhm,
But he's clearly loyal and well-intentioned. So he's got a lot of great qualities. I always feel like when I
mhm,
denigrate a character's intelligence, I'm doing some sort of wrong to the character, and that's because
mm-mm,
I value intelligence as a trait.
mhm.
But I don't want anyone to think that I'm denigrating him for it.
No, it's variable. It's a variable between different characters, so you talk about it. It's not
Mhm.
yeah, it's not that you're going, "Oh, well, he is stupid." It's just we're just comparing him,
Yeah,
and just yeah, it's a characteristic.
yeah. Span reads are very cool.
Oh, I was waiting for that. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So there's a small part of me that has fear.
Okay.
That fear being I don't like when fantasy worlds introduce telephones into the world
Mhm,
because you introduce any number of issues that could simply just be resolved by making a phone call. Elantris
mhm,
is guilty of this. So
mhm, mhm,
there's a little bit of fear there just at the topic of there being phones in this world. But this isn't quite a phone. There are some limitations to it. It seems much more like World War II Morse code things, and I think that's really neat.
mhm. Yeah, but it has enough limitations that maybe it will not become a plot hole,
Yeah,
basically.
or introduce any, rather, I think.
Mm, yeah.
Yasna writing, keep mother at arm's length, she bites line, and then Navani seeing it. I literally could not stop laughing at that.
I loved that. I was so happy about it. I was like, "Yeah, you take that. Your daughter's giving you a bit of a flick on the nose. Stop it."
Don't read my
Yeah.
texts, mom.
No, but still, like, "Mom, you wanna be there? Then you're gonna have to hear the truth. It's the truth."
Yeah.
So,
And then
I like that.
yeah. And then Dalinar essentially begs Yasna to come home to the war camps this
Mhm.
chapter.
Mhm.
And she didn't quite seem to pick up that he was begging, I think. Well, we don't know because it's not from her POV. I'm just saying
Mhm.
Dalinar laid it on thick, and he's probably right to do so.
Just going back a little bit, having Shalon feature was a great like, when the drawing came along, I was like, "It's her!
Y-
It's her! Yay!"
yes. So it's funny. I was going to get to that next, actually, but two big things. One, Yasna compliments Shalon on her
Mhm.
talent as an artist. That seems
Mhm.
big to me, especially
Yeah.
after the awkward way in which we left them.
Mhm. Yeah, we know that there's time in
Yes.
between, so she's had time to obviously impress her and show how useful she is. I love that this is how Shalon became because I knew earlier on about her becoming the ward. I'm like, "Okay, we need to figure out a way that Shalon is useful to
Mhm.
Yasna."
Yes.
And that's here is the nice payoff there. I was like, "Oh, yeah," because it was such a like you could see this wasn't like he could see this was not her drawing.
Mhm.
So she's better than Yasna.
Yeah, who is apparently good at virtually everything.
Everything, yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to bring up about that is we've seen the painting.
Mhm. Yes, we have a couple, pages back, chapters, yeah.
Yup.
And we did say, like, "Wait, that looks really big. That doesn't" like, we were wondering how yeah, where this came from.
Yeah. But so
Mhm.
that's excellent. Obviously, I had to go back and
Mhm.
look at the painting and
Mhm.
just like with this new context,
Mhm.
Voidbringer.
Yeah.
So now we have to have a great big long talk about Yasna
Mhm.
and the research that she's doing. So first off, she's a part of some sort of secret society that are basically historians but try to be unbiased. historians.
Okay. That wasn't my main takeaway. My main takeaway was I just they historians plus, I suppose. They're trying to get the truth. So I suppose yeah, you're right. They are unbiased. They try to, but I think historians are supposed to be unbiased anyway.
They're supposed to be, yes, but Dallin
Which is what Dalinar thinks. I'm like, yeah,
right.
that's what I think.
The point of the distinction that I'm making here is the fact that Dalinar doesn't see the distinction between what she is by what her group purports to be and the generic
Mhm.
historian.
Yeah. But I think the generic historian still operates within culture. It helps that she is a heretic.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that, and we figure out this chapter, we do actually learn why she's a heretic. She didn't choose a devotion or whatever that they're called.
Yes.
She rejected that. And the reason that she did was that she didn't want to make promises that she didn't feel right. So she didn't choose I don't know what they're called. It's not a devotion. It's like Adelyn's has dueling
Calling.
and all of that. She didn't. Yeah, the calling. She didn't choose one,
Right.
and that was great.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And it's one of the things that Dalinar loves and respects her for is her uncompromising
Mm,
way of like I'm not going to settle sort of a
mhm,
thing, which
yeah,
is great.
yeah,
But bringing it back a little bit, Dalinar wonders if she's researching the reason behind Gavilar's assassination. And it
mhm,
seems to me she's researching the Everstorm in some way. Now the two it seems to me that they are connected in some way.
mm.
And
It could be the reasoning. Yeah.
yeah, she asks about Dalinar's first encounters with the Parshendi, and the takeaways were that they learned the language quickly. They asked about maps. They did not ask about Voidbringers as far as he can remember, and they didn't have shard plate or shard blades, or they weren't seen with them until after Gavilar's death.
Mm,
Oh, but one of the other big takeaways was that they had never well, obviously, this was their first encounter, so they hadn't been seen prior to it by definition, and that spawned in me a potential theory. If the Chasm Fiends had not been seen, and the Parshendi who worship them had not been seen, and if the Parshendi do indeed worship the heralds, as it's suggested they might from the Kaladin chapter in the Chasm, there are a couple of different possibilities presented to us. One being that the heralds could possibly be Parshendi, or I'm totally blanking on the second one because it feels like it took me forever to just walk this far.
mhm,
The, or
I
that they come and go in the same way that the heralds do. That every cycle they go
mhm,
somewhere and then reemerge when the Everstorm comes. That was the second thing. What do
okay,
you think of all of
okay.
that?
Oh, so you're talking about the Parshendi emerging or the chasm feeds?
Both, because they seem connected to me.
Okay. Mm. I don't know if they're like a sign of the times, but that makes sense, and I can see it. I can see it, but I didn't. It's a possibility. That's all I can say. Just with the Parshendi, that they what's interesting is they had seen Parshman before. They had seen Parshman before,
Yeah,
so they'd seen these creatures before,
true.
but they had never seen Parshman with basically society and language and whatever. So they were not intelligent or anything like that. That's how they saw them, and so this was like finding civilized
Monkeys.
savages.
Yeah,
Yeah, civilized monkeys. Yeah, so like monkeys that can speak, or I suppose crabs that can speak. I suppose is what they look like.
yeah.
So they had like semi-intelligent, somewhat sentient parshmen that just serve and just are like I don't know. I suppose like a certain level of droid, if we're gonna um,
Mm.
think about it that way. But then they found Parshendi who are way advanced. So that's my question is, what's the difference? What is it? Is it just ignorance? Were they just ignorant of the depth of a Parshman's intelligence, or is are they like the chosen Parshman?
Gotcha.
Do they come because of the end times occurring, the Everstorm, something like that?
Right.
They've got they've got their own
I I'm
their
their own
mhm.
agenda.
Yes, there you go.
I'm
Yeah.
genuinely curious if they are working in favor of the Everstorm. I don't think that the Chasm Fiends are the Voidbringers. That feels
No,
like it would be a
those
tremendous letdown. And the painting that we get, it is stated, may not necessarily be accurate to what the Voidbringers are. But the fact that they appear to be similar in some way suggests overlapping elements. And
mhm,
given that the Parshendi seem to worship these creatures as gods, it may well be that the Parshendi want to usher in the Everstorm. I mean, it certainly seems like they invited that in their effort in assassinating Gavilar and causing
mhm,
division, because I think we presume unite them is a good thing and therefore division
mhm,
bad.
mhm. I would like to just I need a Parshendi POV. I need to understand
Please.
what's going on in there, but I think that this is the ongoing. Sanderson loves his mysteries, so it's the ongoing try and figure out what the Parshendi are up to. We don't know. There's so much that is unclear, and sometimes it gets to me,
Yeah.
but I think it gets to me because of the pace that we're reading it,
I'm sorry, Kite.
not because of no, it's fun. We get to really, really theorize every single chapter.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm enjoying it. I really am enjoying
Mm,
this journey.
mm,
So Dalinar realizes, sort of passively, from the language he uses in his stream of conscience, that he is going to retire. That decision has been made.
mhm,
And he tells this to Navani, and Navani rightfully is like, "You've made a mistake. This is a not a good thing." And I agree.
yeah, it's like, you said that there was the option for him to maybe he would be more maneuverable or what, but I don't think he would be as influential
Hmm.
by retiring. He's just an old man yelling at a cloud if
I
he
mean,
if he retires.
here's the thing. When the voice says unite them, I don't think he is referring solely to the High Princes. I think he is
Mhm,
referring to all of the countries in the world,
mhm,
essentially.
mhm.
And
Yeah,
when I say maneuverability, I imagine a retired Bright Lord would have an easier time, say, traveling to these
mhm,
places and trying to improve relations or something to that
mhm.
effect.
But he won't have the authority.
Yeah,
That's the thing. He won't have the pull. He'll just have the means. So he doesn't have this authority anymore. But I understand Dalinar's dilemma. He's like, okay, well, maybe I can pursue whatever the voice is telling me. I can pursue this and figure it out while my house continues under my son's supervision. He thinks that this is the best of both worlds. He gets to continue because he doesn't deny he's not like gonna now stop listening to the visions and things like that.
mhm,
He's just noticed that the way that he's put his faith in it has resulted in bad things for his house. So he's rather stepping away so he can pursue it by himself without affecting the house. But I don't think it'll be that effective if it does happen.
agreed. But as you said, it's possible he won't have the chance to retire, and
Mhm.
I hope that happens, but in a positive way.
You hope that he changes his well, he can't retire,
I
but
I hope something will happen that will essentially be a stroke of good luck or fortune,
mhm,
and it
mhm.
will give him renewed energy. I don't hope Sadius is gonna be like, "You're under arrest, Dalinar," before the chance to retire is taken, is what I'm
That's
saying.
possible. Yeah, but, like, we get it's such a tease, the way he's like, "Oh, within the week, I'll do this and this and this." So Sanderson is making you take note that he has made the decision.
Mhm.
It's done. And you're like, "Yeah, but,
When
I don't
does
know,
that when does anything go
when does it
according
take?"
to plan?
Yeah, exactly. And a week. So it's woo. And then we go into interludes next. So, like, thanks.
Yep.
Uh, mm,
Okay. What a jam-packed chapter. There was a lot. It
mhm.
was a long chapter, but I loved
Loved it.
every minute of it. Yeah, every line.
Mhm, mhm.
Is there anything else to say?
Like the video.
If you like, and subscribe to that darn Kita if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time. Okay,
Good
thanks,
next
bye.
bye.